Hey, if you don't happen to know who I am, my name is Reece and I'm the owner and founder of Define. And today we're going to be covering a natural eyebrow fill as well as how to identify which color inside of our essentials palette is right for you based on your hair color to fill in your brows. So here's what you're gonna need on hand for today. You're going to want your brow brush and your spoolie brush. If you have the older version, then you actually have the dual-sided, so it's just one brush. But as of right now, we have the two separate brushes. But regardless of when you're watching this tutorial and which brow brush we're on, you're either gonna have one that's dual-sided or the individuals of both. So you'll need those two brushes. You're also going to need your essentials palette or essentials palette mini. And then oftentimes I'm doing my makeup in the bathroom, so I have access to a sink with water. However, since I'm recording, I just have some water available to me here. And no, it's not for drinking. I will show you what it is needed for later. But first things first, let's cover which color you will use to fill in your eyebrows. So I kind of feel like using the spoolie brush as my pointer essentially today, so that's what we're gonna do. But the first color we're going to cover is this caramel shade, and it is matte. We're not using any of the shimmers or the white today for eyebrows. But caramel is really great if you are a natural redhead, if you have ginger hair, or even if you've naturally dyed your hair to something more red, ginger, or strawberry blonde. This is going to be the ideal shade for you. If you happen to have dark brown hair or almost black hair, that's where you are going to use this dark brown shade, and I will teach you how to make it darker as well if you need to deepen that color a little bit. And last but not least, we have our matte light brown. This hands down is our most versatile shade. You can use this if you have light brown hair, if you have a lot of blonde in your hair, or even if you have, some highlights and you happen to be light brown naturally. This is also great if you have a fashion color in your hair. So if you've dyed it like green or blue or purple or whatever color, hands down, the light brown is the most versatile for my blondes, my light browns, and ladies with fashion color. But the really nice thing about this is because it is our most versatile shade by far, that's what you're going to see inside of the Essentials Palette Mini. So for me personally, because I have light brown at my roots and I have some blonde highlights, I am going to be using the light brown. And I'll get my spoolie brush later, I dropped it. But you're going to want to go ahead and pick up your brow brush and load up the shade that you will be using to fill in your brows. So I'm grabbing some of that light brown, tapping off any excess. And based on brow anatomy, we're gonna start filling in our brows. So if you remember from brow anatomy, your eyebrow should start from where your nose bulges out straight up. If you don't happen to have a brow there, do not fill your brow where there is not a brow. It's going to look unnatural. So start wherever your brow starts and we can work on, growing your eyebrows at a later date. Okay, so I can go ahead and get started there. Since I've had my eyebrows done for years now, they're shaped to where they need to be. So for the first 10%, because that hair grows upwards, we are also going to use upward motions to fill in the brow for that first 10 to 20%. And then when you see the eyebrow hair starting to angle towards the arch, we're going to follow that natural growth pattern up towards the arch when we're filling it in. And then once you've hit the arch, you can start to angle it down a little bit where those hairs naturally grow on the tail. Filling in any spots that I feel like are a little sparse, just kind of going back through. I'm really picky about how my eyebrows are filled, by the way. So if you're like, dang, Reece, this is taking you a while, that's because I'm super picky about how my eyebrows are filled. I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. But on this side, I'm gonna show you our wet brush technique. So if you happen to have black hair and you need to intensify the color a little bit, as in make it darker, or if you just have darker hair and you need to kind of adjust the color, or if you happen to have a scar that goes through your eyebrow. I've had a couple girls I've worked on in the salon who do have a scar that goes through their eyebrow just because of things they did when they were younger, trampoline accidents, etc. I'll show you how to kind of fill that gap in. So again, I'm going up and then moving to the side. And once I hit the arch, we're going to stop because I'm going to show you the wet brush technique. Okay, so now taking your brow brush, obviously we've used dry powder so far. But what you can do is wet your brush. So you can just run it under some water in your sink, or in my case right now, I'm just making sure the brush is wet. And then you're going to almost make a paste inside of your Essentials palette with that wet brush. So loading that up in that area. You should not make it to where it's like a pool of water inside of that color, but you just want it to be a little bit more damp. So you can see I did not create a pool, but you can obviously tell where I grabbed it from. And this is going to make that color a little bit darker and also kind of, like I said, create that paste to where it'll fill in any areas that you might have a scar on your brow a lot better. It's going to sharpen that tail a lot more. So if you like a very light brow, this is just using powder. If you like to have a little bit more of an intense tail going on when it comes to your brows, you can see how much sharper this tail is versus this one. So this one's just very light and fluffy. This one has a lot more structure and is a little bit more bold because that color now appears darker. And if you're like, Reece, this feels a little bit wet, trust me, it will dry. It just takes a little bit for it to do so. Now, because I'm picky about my eyebrows being even, I am gonna go back and use the wet brush technique on this tail too, so that they look even. But I wanted to show you guys the difference in the tutorial so that you could see how different it will look. Okay, and let me grab my spoolie brush. I like totally dropped it on the floor, but you guys probably got a great view of the top of my head. All right, so spoolie brush, now that we have everything filled in, we're going to brush it in that natural growth way, so upwards here. Then we're going over to the side, and I'm using super light pressure when I'm doing this, and then we're going to kind of brush it out again towards the tail, kind of angling it more downwards. Same thing on this brow, up, 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 and over, and down. And go ahead and give your brow a little bit of time to dry before you brush it out, because otherwise you might start to see that you're moving the color when you've done the wet brush technique. But you can see just how light and light, not like, how light and natural the brow looks. It's not a Sharpie brow by any means, but this is a natural brow fill. If you want to learn how to take it up a notch and do more of what's trending as of right now, which is like a fluffy brow with brow gel, then be sure to catch us in the next tutorial. But I will see you for that, and thanks for joining me.